These are some Simpsons crossovers you might not have known about.
Obviously on 24. I mean The Simpsons.
Season 18's 24 Minutes starts with Principal Skinner's latest top student taking on Springfield Elementary, a full-blown counter-truancy unit, because what could possibly go wrong when you give Lisa Simpson authority over a crew that includes Milhouse, Martin, and Database? Think of it as Mission Impossible, but more awkward with a lot more inhalers. When Springfield's trio of Jimbo, Dolph, and Kearney decide that attending a school is optional, Milhouse is sent to go all undercover agent on them. Let's just say he's less James Bond and more Inspector Gadget. At the Springfield nuclear power plant, workers come across something hazardous, a container of expired yogurt.
Simpson, you can take your putrid mess far out of my sight.
Obviously it's Homer's, and Mr. Burns sends him away to dispose of it, but Homer treats this biohazard like a business trip.
The following takes place between 2:34 p.m. and 3:04 p.m. Or maybe it's a.m., whichever one is the morning one. It's not that one.
This is so fun. First stop, the Quickie Mart, where he tries to pawn the yogurt off on Apu, but Apu isn't falling for Homer's nonsense. Fate leads the yogurt into the hands of Jimbo and his gang, and Homer accidentally discovers Milhouse tailing the bullies. Naturally, the bullies lock both Homer and Milhouse in a dumpster and roll them down the street.
I've lost Milhouse!
He'll be somewhat missed.
The only person who can stand up to these bullies, Bart. At the Simpson house, Marge has her own crisis. She has exactly 30 minutes to bake a raisin sponge cake for the school bake sale. But first, she needs the raisins.
If I help you, I want full immunity for all pranks past and future. And you have to teach me a swear word.
Bart persuades Skinner to let him help by telling him the bullies will ruin the upcoming bake sale. Not the bake sale that provides 90% of the school's funding. Skinner tells him a new swear word, and Bart takes his car for the mission. At Jimbo's house, the bullies are concocting a stink bomb, and not just any stink bomb, but an absolute stench factory. Ingredients include Homer's expired yogurt, roadkill, burnt hair, possum placenta, 6 weeks of bottled farts, and even sweat from a walk-around Goofy suit. Their plan? Detonate this monstrosity at the bake sale. Ah, Springfield's finest, folks. Marge is at the supermarket where she finds the last box of raisins sitting there like a golden prize at the end of a quest. That is when Helen Lovejoy arrives, who also has her eyes on the raisins. The fight is on. Marge is victorious, and we see Helen being wheeled away in a stretcher. God, these housewives are brutal. On the other side of town, Bart is trying to stop the stink bomb from getting out. But plot twist, Martin is a double agent and warns the bullies of the plan, and they escape before they're caught.
Who is this?
I'm Jack Bauer. Who the hell are you?
Me? I'm at a duty.
I do love a crossover. It's like the multiverse. Desperate to speed up the baking process, Marge cranks the oven to an eye-popping 1200 degrees. Do ovens even go that high? Of course, the cake turns out less moist and delicious and more rock-hard and deadly. Despite slathering it with enough frosting to make a dentist cry, Marge's cake dents her car hood when she drops it.
My cake!
After Martin is revealed as the CTU mole, Bart is now on the case and interrogates Nelson in true 24 fashion by beating him with a trash can until he confesses that Martin is the double agent. Wow, so Bart can take on Nelson. Of course, just as Bart is about to expose Martin to Lisa, Martin knocks him out cold because even nerds have their breaking point. At the bake sale, the bullies are ready to detonate their stink bomb by starting a 3-minute countdown. Martin retrieves his precious ant farm from the bullies, but realizes his mistake. By the time the bake sale rolls around, Marge's cake looks like it could survive a nuclear explosion, and possibly, it just might. Not surprisingly, no one dares try it. Bart regains consciousness in a locked ventilation room with groundskeeper Willie, who seems oddly prepared for this scenario. Bart sends Lisa a picture of the stink bomb, and Skinner is ordered to dump the school's hot dog water into the ventilation system to short-circuit the fan before the bomb goes off. It's all very technical.
I've got an idea. As you're dying, jam the blades with your spine.
Keep pitching. I'll be back.
Running out of time, Bart goes to the window which leads to the bake sale. People spot him and Chief Wiggum shoots at the glass to try and break him out. But of course, it's bulletproof.
There's nothing that can shatter it.
Yes, there is.
Marge's rock-hard cake comes to the rescue, at least it has a purpose now, and breaks through the window. Lisa powers off the bomb.
Good work, Lisa!
What about me?
Bart Simpson, 12 minutes ago you made an annoying prank phone call to me. All units move in.
but Bart gets arrested for his prank call. Oh, and just when you think things can't get crazier, a nuclear bomb goes off in the distance. But don't worry, Jack Bauer assures everyone it was just in Shelbyville. No big loss, right? Judge Me Tender starts at Springfield's annual Ugly Dog Contest, where Homer and Bart try to make Santa's little helper as ugly as possible. Krusty the Clown is one of the judges and is once again terrible at it.
That one's so ugly, it reminds me of my ex-wife.
Well, that was awkward. Moe tries to take a seat in the audience, but nobody will let him near them. Since when did we hate Moe? Krusty starts judging the dogs, but the crowd is extremely bored because his jokes just aren't funny.
Hey, Clown, we've heard you stand up. Now how about some shut up?
Moe actually gets a laugh out of the audience, so Krusty passes the baton to him, figuring it couldn't get much worse. Turns out Moe is a natural, or at least naturally mean. His insults are sharp, his critiques cutting, but hilariously on point. Springfielders, being Springfielders, love it, but not everyone is thrilled. Santa's little helper, who has been renamed Satan's little helper for the contest, isn't exactly over the moon about winning first place.
You're hilarious!
Judge my baby!
Moe's newfound fame as a judge quickly spreads, and before you know it, he's being offered gigs around town. But there's a catch. He's got to close down his beloved bar. This, of course, devastates Homer and the gang. Without Moe's, where else is Homer supposed to hide from his family? His judging gigs snowball until Moe's approached for the big leagues. American Idol. Yep, Moe Sislak, Hollywood bound. With Moe off in Hollywood, Homer is left to spend an abnormal amount of time at home, and it's safe to say Marge isn't handling it well. Homer's everywhere she goes, sitting on the couch, popping up in the kitchen, and labeling everything in the house.
Oh, what kind of ventilating is that?
Desperate for some alone time, Marge pulls Homer along to a sports bar, claiming he deserves a treat after staying at home. Translation, she needs a drink, and fast. Santa's little helper is still sulking after being awarded the ugliest dog, so Lisa goes out to cheer him up by complimenting him. Aw, he needed that. Over in Hollywood, Moe is getting his first taste of fame. He meets Simon Cowell, the king of judging, and Simon tells Moe he's pretty good at throwing out insults.
Moe, I want to give you a friendly warning. Don't do what I did. Don't become the mean judge.
Simon tells him it's a lonely job. Nobody wants to be your friend when they think they'll get insulted. Moe just brushes it off. Who needs friends when you've got fame, right? Moe takes his spot at the American Idol judging table for his big debut, sitting beside Randy, Kara, Ellen, and Simon. Moe starts off strong. He even finds a way to compliment one contestant's bizarre rendition of Happy Birthday.
A desperate plea for affection which fell as flat as the hair on my head.
Turns out Simon's not just being his usual cranky self, he's actually trying to sabotage Moe. Why? Simple. Moe's judging style is too good, too funny, and worst of all, way cheaper than Simon's fat paycheck. Moe's had enough. In classic Moe meltdown, he threatens to break Simon's voice box and shatter his overpriced drink on the table.
Let's see how smart you are with your voice box hanging out.
Moe gets banned from California for life and takes his place back in his beloved bar. The next episode is a bit of a different one, where Springfield tries to force Mark Hamill to play Luke Skywalker where he goes. At the start of Mayored to the Mob, the Simpsons family gears up for the ultimate Geek Fest, the bi-monthly sci-fi convention, featuring none other than Mark Hamill. Excitement fills the air as everyone is ready to bask in Hamill's Jedi glow.
But I'm also here to talk about Sprint.
Until he tries to promote Sprint, that is. Hamill tries to win the crowd back by suggesting they reenact a scene from Star Wars, but when he asks who wants to volunteer, the crowd start fighting over who's gonna be Obi-Wan. Homer bulldozes through the crowd like a one-man wrecking ball, rescuing both Mark Hamill and Mayor Quimby from the mob.
You call yourselves bodyguards? You're fired!
Quimby replaces his bodyguards with the one and only Homer Simpson. What could possibly go wrong?
Look out, Marge! Cat!
Yes, he saves Marge from the cat, but she tells him to relax because he's going too far.
Homer, I don't want you using your new sleeper hold on the children.
They'll be fine in half an hour.
Homer starts to enjoy his new bodyguard status and takes advantage of the perks. Front row seats at Moe's and a double burger from Krusty's. At a mafia meeting, Homer stumbles upon Fat Tony's latest shady business, milking rats. Yes, rats. And passing it off as premium dairy.
Rats? I'm outraged. You promised me dog or hire.
Not only is the mayor in on it, Springfield Elementary is their biggest customer. Horrified, Homer rushes to the school, gags as he watches clueless kids chugging rat milk like it's chocolate milk, and narrowly saves Bart from downing his own carton.
Bart, no!
But Lisa is already compromised. Homer demands that the mayor shut down Fat Tony's rat milk operation, but Mayor Quimby is understandably nervous. You would be too, because crossing Fat Tony is like signing your own death certificate. Quimby reluctantly stands up to them.
I am not so much disappointed as I am blinded with rage.
But Fat Tony isn't happy. They set the rats free, get rid of the milk, and Fat Tony is arrested after threatening Quimby's life. Homer decides to take the mayor out for a relaxing evening at the Springfield Dinner Theater, where Guys and Dolls is being performed, and the one and only Mark Hamill is the lead.
This is a conceptual nightmare. I mean, Nathan Detroit would never wear this.
Springfield is obsessed with Luke Skywalker.
Now get out there, Luke.
Fat Tony and Louie are watching the show and set out to kill the mayor.
Do it for Yoda while we serve our guests a soda.
They're really pushing this. Homer puts up a valiant fight fending off Louie when Mark's wise words come to the rescue.
Homer, use the fork.
The Force?
The forks. Use the forks.
Fat Tony still takes out the mayor and Homer is disappointed. Mark comes to the rescue again and tells Homer how great he is.
Homer, I think you know what to do.
The episode wraps up with Homer doing what he does best, fighting off an angry mob while carrying Hamill to safety. Because when in doubt, always save the Jedi. While flipping through channels, Homer stumbles across what could only be described as the best of British sophistication, a rowdy sitcom called Do Shut Up on PBS. Sadly, just as he's getting into it, the worst happens. A telethon cuts in, asking for donations. Annoyed, Homer decides to end the madness.
I'd like to pledge $10,000 to get them to shut up.
The problem? Homer's bank account contains more cobwebs than cash. Spoiler, they totally find him. Thanks to some Insta-Trace technology that PBS apparently has, Homer is suddenly their hero for saving the network. Cue the applause, confetti, and a pledge enforcement van pulling up to the Simpson house like they're there to collect the ransom. Marge and Lisa observe this chaos from a distance and agree that one of them should probably stay home from now on. Good call, ladies. That's when the biggest cameo of the episode appears. Here comes Betty White, who asks Homer for the cash. Homer tries to wiggle out, saying the banks are closed, but Betty is unfazed and casually reminds him it's only 12:15. Homer's next move? An attempt to confuse the bank teller into, well, something. It doesn't work because, shocker, Homer really doesn't have the money. What follows is the PBS version of a mob chase with Betty White and a gang of beloved PBS characters, probably some Muppets too, hot on his heels. Homer flees to the one place he thinks he'll be safe, the church. There, Reverend Lovejoy helps Homer escape by stuffing him into a sack of children's letters to God. Lovejoy ships Homer off to the South Pacific, where he's now supposed to become a missionary in a place called Microasia. Honestly, Homer probably needs that. Once he's arrived, Homer meets the locals, Katok Tok and Ak, along with a young girl who looks and sounds eerily like Lisa.
My name's Homer. What's yours?
Homer, clearly inspired, names her Lisa Jr. In true Homer fashion, his first reaction to his predicament is to throw himself on the ground and wail. Naturally, the Islanders follow his moves, thinking it's some new form of worship. Homer realizes he knows as much about religion as he does about basic banking, and decides to pivot. What do these noble, untouched Islanders need? A casino, of course. He calls it the Lucky Savage, and it doesn't take long for the introduction of alcohol, gambling, and general debauchery to turn paradise into Las Vegas on a bad day. After the casino disaster, Homer feels guilty, so he builds a chapel to make up for his sins.
I'm the greatest missionary of all time!
Unfortunately, things go south again when he and Lisa Jr. ring the chapel bell so loudly they trigger an earthquake, unleashing a river of lava. As the chapel sinks into the lava, Homer and Lisa Jr. face impending doom. But wait! In a classic twist, the scene cuts to another pledge drive, this time for the Fox network. Turns out Homer's adventures were all filmed for TV, but now the show's at risk of being canceled. And who saves the day? Bart, of course, calling in to pledge $10,000, because he takes after his father. Moving on to Simpsorama, which starts at Springfield Elementary with Principal Skinner showing off a time capsule. Naturally, chaos ensues. Milhouse jams his nose in it, loses his pants, and flashes his tighty-whities to the class.
I brought my lucky rabbit's foot.
Bart panics because he forgot to bring something. His solution? Blow his nose on a sandwich and toss it in. Brilliant move, Bart. At the grand ceremony, Mayor Quimby is lowering this disaster of a capsule into the ground when green goo starts leaking. All eyes are on Mr. Burns, who's definitely guilty of something shady, and then it begins to rain. Later that night, weird sounds start coming from the Simpsons' basement, and Marge hears belching, so Homer suggests sending Santa's little helper to investigate. The dog bolts immediately immediately, so Bart is plan B, but even he's not having it. So naturally, Homer uses Bart as bait, and downstairs Bart spots a shadowy figure chugging a duff. Homer, armed with nothing but a broom, goes full ninja mode and attacks, only to reveal Bender from Futurama.
A robot with a catchphrase!
Trying to be, helpful, Homer decides the best place to take this time-traveling robot is Moe's. That's always the solution. There, Bender drinks half the bar dry and buys rounds for everyone. As you can imagine, Homer now considers him his new best friend, and the best robot he's ever met. The next day, Bart and Lisa catch Homer and Bender passed out on the couch, and Lisa gets suspicious. So off they go to Professor Frink's lab, where Bender gets plugged in and finally remembers his mission.
I remember why I'm here! To kill Homer Simpson!
Understandably, Homer's less than thrilled, but Bender reassures him, kind of, by explaining he's not great at following orders, especially ones involving homicide. Then, Bender gets a call, and a hologram of Leela pops up.
Bender, we've just regained contact. Have you killed Homer Simpson?
Bender lies, but Leela's got bigger problems. New York is overrun by mutant rabbit creatures that all have Homer's DNA. Fry and Leela decide they'll come to the past and take care of Homer themselves, but Bender blocks them, still refusing to kill his new beer buddy. At the Simpsons house, Marge awkwardly meets Fry and Leela, and they both can't stop staring at each other. One with giant blue hair, the other with a single eye. What a pair. Back in the lab, Lisa learns that Bender traveled through time using a time machine, despite what the professor said about portals. More importantly, Frink reveals that the mutant rabbits are a DNA cocktail. Half Homer, half Marge. The good news? They don't have to kill Marge. The bad news? One of her kids has to go. The news cuts to mutant rabbits wreaking havoc, including one that turns into a Bart lizard. Naturally, Bart admits that when he blew his nose on the sandwich in the time capsule, it touched Milhouse's lucky rabbit's foot, setting off the whole rabbit mutation apocalypse. The gang heads to dig up the capsule, but groundskeeper Willie won't let them.
I can't dig that up for 1,000 years!
Rules are rules. Bender sucks everyone into the year 3014, leaving Maggie behind, and he takes her to the racetrack because, well, he knows every winner. In the future, Homer goes full Homer and kills all the mutant Barts by strangling them. Marge is upset because they're stuck in the future now, and Lisa's convinced the only way to fix this entire futuristic mess is to trap the mutant Barts in Madison Cube Garden. Her plan? Lure them in with fake Butterfinger bars and annoy them with her saxophone. Well, it does work, I'll give her that. The cube gets launched into space, much to everyone's relief, well, except Bart. In the end, Fry and Homer reactivate the portal, sending the Simpsons back to their time. Maggie's diaper, however, is full of cash from Bender's racetrack winnings. Bender is ready for another 1,000-year nap and shuts down, but not before Homer drags him to the basement for one last duff. The Simpsons have been doing crossover episodes for a long time, and one of the most classic episodes happened to be one of the first ones, when the X-Files came to town. The Springfield Files starts with Leonard Nimoy narrating a wild ride about alien encounters. And where does he take us? To a town that's seen it all. Springfield. Cut to Moe's Tavern, where Homer is doing what Homer does best, taking down more red tick beer than should ever be humanly possible. This isn't your average brew, by the way. No, it's made with real dogs swimming in the tanks, because apparently that's the flavor Springfield's going for. After polishing off 10 bottles...
Just a second, Homer. You gotta take a breathalyzer test before I let you drive home.
Surprise, surprise, he's over the limit. Naturally, in his booze-fueled wisdom, he decides to walk home, but his GPS leads him right into the woods, where things get overly weird and creepy. He tries to get out of the woods, but then, out of nowhere, he runs into a glowing alien.
Don't be afraid.
Homer's response? Full-on panic mode. He bolts through the cornfield and makes his way home. The next day, Homer's trying to convince his family of his close encounter, but everyone thinks he was just drunk. So he decides to tell the cops, and naturally, this calls for the FBI's finest, Mulder and Scully.
Look at this, Scully.
They show up, ready to crack the case, but after some weird tests, they've got absolutely nothing. Homer's the laughingstock of the town, especially with Lisa, but Bart actually believes him. Why? Because Homer's just so sure about it, and if anyone knows Homer, it's that he's never been more certain of anything in his life. Well, except maybe donuts. Determined to prove his dad isn't just Springfield's latest joke, Bart camps out with Homer the next Friday and is armed with Flanders' camping gear and video camera. They spot the alien again, who's out here promising peace, like he's auditioning for a new age cult. Of course, Homer ruins the moment by stepping into the campfire and screaming like, fool Homer. The alien runs away, but fear not, Bart's got the whole thing on tape. Well, as it turns out, Bart's tape is pretty much just 3 seconds of static, with the alien barely visible. But that doesn't stop all of Springfield from turning into full-blown alien conspiracy theorists. Friday rolls around again, and this time the whole town gathers in the woods. Sure enough, the alien appears, still promising love and peace. But this is Springfield we're talking about, so the citizens are naturally freaked out about the idea of free peace and love.
It's bringing love! Don't let it get away!
Right as things are about to get out of control, Lisa figures it out. Turns out the alien is none other than Mr. Burns. Yep, the old man's getting these bizarre longevity treatments every week to extend his life, and the side effects leave him glowing green, speaking like a Care Bear, and as loopy as a roller coaster. Smithers explains it all. Chiropractic treatments, anesthesia, and a throat scraping. Burns, now back to his usual cranky self, drops the Peace and Love Act real fast. Instead, he promises famine and hatred, like a villain doing a terrible job at a redemption arc. But before he can really get going, Dr. Nick swoops in with a booster shot, and suddenly, everyone's singing Good Morning Starshine. Springfield, ladies and gentlemen. In the end, Marge apologizes to Homer for doubting him, and they make up as the town sings along with Mr. Burns. Season 6's A Star is Burns is all about the art of cinema and the weird people of Springfield. Speaking of Springfield, it is officially crowned the least cultural city in the United States. At the start of this episode, obviously the people don't care for that, so they decide to shake off that unwanted label in the most Springfield way possible by holding a town meeting. These guys love their town meetings, don't they?
A new idea is different. I think we should hold a film festival.
Marge suggests a film festival showcasing homegrown talent. Naturally, this could have gone either way, explosions or success, but the town actually loves it. Before she knows it, Marge is the head honcho of the festival's judging panel. She even ropes in New York film critic Jay Sherman, who says yes fast, mostly because he's trying to dodge some heat he's receiving for his last bad review. Jay has a razor-sharp wit and impressive resume, and immediately makes Homer feel about as relevant as an expired coupon, so Homer does what any loving, insecure husband would. He badgers Marge into letting him join the judging panel too.
Fine, you're on the jury.
When the festival kicks off, Springfieldians come out in droves with their cinematic masterpieces. Bart enters The Eternal Struggle, which is basically a docu-horror trilogy centered around Homer in painfully awkward situations. Part 3, Homer versus the Dockers, a battle no one asked for but can't look away from. Mr. Burns, never one for subtlety, submits A Burns for All Seasons, a movie as humble as a billboard with his face on it. The star of the show, however, is Barney Gumbel's tragically titled Pocahontas, an emotional, artistic deep dive into his lifelong tango with alcoholism. It's got heart, tears, and way too much realism for Springfield, and both Marge and Jay see it as the clear frontrunner.
I think we have a winner.
Burns' movie, on the other hand, is a disaster, directed by Signor Spielbergo. Despite the booze, Burns remains delusionally optimistic, thinking the crowd was chanting "Boo Earns" and not just "Boo." And because Springfield is, well, Springfield, Burns bribes Krusty and Quimby, leading to a tie.
Let's just say it moved me.
Now, with the festival on the line, Homer casts his tie-breaking vote for the true masterpiece, Hans Moleman's Man Getting Hit by Football. A film so simple, yet so profound. Hans gets nailed in the groin by a football. That's it, that's the movie, roll credits. Thankfully, Marge and Jay stage an intervention, convincing Homer to sit through Pocahontas from start to finish. Moved by its depth, and probably a little embarrassed, Homer changes his vote and Pocahontas is crowned the winner. During his acceptance speech, Barney has a breakthrough, swearing off booze for good, only to backtrack when Mayor Quimby presents his prize, a lifetime supply of Duff beer. As Sherman heads back to New York, the Simpsons thank him for helping turn Springfield from a cultural void into a slightly smaller cultural void. Marge optimistically hopes that Mr. Burns learned a valuable lesson. You can't bribe your way into everything. But in true Burns fashion, he submits A Burns for All Seasons to the Academy Awards. The kicker? He buys his way into a Best Actor nomination, only to lose to George C. Scott for his brilliant work on the big-budget remake of Man Getting Hit by Football. Sadly, The Critic didn't stay on the air nearly as long as The Simpsons, but this episode became a fan favorite almost immediately, and it is still celebrated and loved to this day. Now we're about to switch things up a bit and do a crossover episode that technically didn't appear on The Simpsons. Remember when our favorite animated family collabed with Family Guy? Here we have The Simpsons Guy, narrated by none other than the Sweaty Clam.
Oh, hey guys. Okay, so this episode starts with Peter Griffin getting annoyed by an unimpressive comic strip and deciding to channel his inner Picasso, only with less talent. Way less talent. His strip becomes a hit, but Peter being Peter, he manages to offend women, which has the internet mob on him like there's no tomorrow.
Gosh, it's not like the internet to go crazy about something small and stupid.
He tries to clear his name on Joyce's talk show, but of course this only makes things worse. With an angry mob knocking at the door, the Griffins decide it's time to get out of Quahog. And so after an all-night road trip, the Griffins roll into a gas station only to have their car stolen while grabbing snacks. Now stranded, they find themselves in a town called Springfield. In typical Peter fashion, he wanders into the Quickie Mart for some food and meets none other than Homer Simpson.
Apu, a dozen donuts for our albino visitors.
Naturally, Homer offers friendship the only way he knows how, sharing donuts. After making quick friends, the pair try to report the car theft at the police station, but they're turned away because they haven't donated to the policeman's ball. Feels a bit like an abuse of power. With no leads and no ride, the Simpsons take pity on them and invite the Griffins to stay at their house. While Homer and Peter bond over their shared laziness, Bart introduces Stewie and Brian to his idea of mischief, which mostly consists of a slingshot, prank calls, and some crude jokes.
Eat my shorts. I love that.
Lisa shows Meg her room while Peter convinces Homer they need to find his missing car ASAP. Chris and Brian take the Simpsons dog Santa's little helper for a walk, but as Brian tries to teach him some independence, the dog bolts and almost becomes the latest addition to the Krusty Burger menu. Bart teaches Stewie how to skateboard, but their session's interrupted by Nelson Muntz, who's been picking on Bart since, well, forever. Stewie's never one to miss a chance for chaos, so he hatches a revenge plot involving kidnapping Nelson and literally making him eat his shorts. As the chaos unfolds, Homer and Peter's attempts to find the stolen car go predictably wrong. Okay, please stop. That's more of these two than I ever wanted to see. Meg tries Lisa's saxophone and nails it on her first try, but because Meg can never have nice things, Lisa tells her she's no good out of jealousy. That's right, no one steals Lisa's sax thunder. Back at the Simpsons house, Santa's little helper is still MIA, which has Chris and Brian desperately faking the dog's presence. The guys take a break but get back to work when Hans Moleman drives by, using Peter's stolen car. In true Griffin style, Peter and Homer celebrate finding his car by hitting Moe's bar. Peter introduces Homer to Pawtucket Patriot beer, but Homer's unimpressed and claims it tastes like Duff's unfortunate cousin. Moe rips off the label to reveal it's just Duff in disguise, and suddenly a lawsuit is in the air. As tensions between Quahog and Springfield escalate, Peter finds himself defending the Pawtucket Brewery in court. Ooh, it's getting heated.
Nice day for stabbing a friend in the back.
Brian nearly spills the beans about losing Santa's little helper, but the dog shows up on his own, much to Brian's relief. At least one thing's gone right this episode. Before they leave, Meg reveals how deep her new obsession with Lisa has gone by carving her name into her arm. Thank you card could have worked too. Lisa, feeling guilty, gives Meg her sax, which Peter promptly tosses because there's no room for extra luggage. Bart and Stewie share their goodbyes, with Stewie proudly revealing that he's kidnapped all of Bart's enemies. That's nice, right? Well, nice and disturbing for a 1-year-old. Just as the Griffins are about to leave, Peter and Homer get into a brawl that escalates into an epic chicken fight style showdown, wrecking all of Springfield and even crashing into the nuclear plant. By the time they fall into a reactor and gain superpowers, it's pure mayhem. Eventually, they lose their powers, crash into Springfield Gorge, and after some last blows, they finally call a truce. They agree to keep their shows a half-hour apart, which honestly is just better for everyone. Back in Quahog, Peter's internet drama dies down, Pawtucket Patriot Ale is saved, and Stewie tearfully promises to stop thinking about Bart. Yeah, sure you will, Stewie. Sure you will.
The crossover for this next one is only featured in the couch gag, but I thought I'd include it anyway because it's a good one. Mathlete's feet starts normally enough, with the entire Simpsons family getting comfy on their couch, just like they do at the start of every episode, right? But then Rick and Morty come crashing through the wall in their high-tech UFO, and things get wild. The Simpsons are smushed and smashed, and Rick and Morty immediately start freaking out. I'd do the same thing, to be honest. But Rick's got an idea. He scoops up a vial of Simpsons goo and a portrait of the family, and zaps open a portal to travel through. He sends Morty into an alien world where a big, surly creature takes the Simpson goo and gives Morty a batch of eggs that should replicate them. Back at the Simpsons house, Rick is having the time of his life, eating donuts, playing Lisa's saxophone, and stealing Marge's necklaces. Oh, he also pretty much kills Flanders with a freeze ray, but can you blame him? Eventually, Morty returns with the eggs and Rick lets them hatch. They don't look perfect. In fact, they resemble Rick, who reminds Morty to never clean a vial with your own spit. And with that, they hop in their ship and fly away. The mutated, deranged-looking Bart then begs to never have any more guest animators. It's a short little crossover, but this one at the start of Mathlete's feet is still considered one of the best. podcast. And that is 9 crossovers from The Simpsons. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that little crossover of our own. Leave a like and subscribe for more content like this.